This is Raythe from Raythe Reign. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Raythe Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 22, Interviewing.
So, do you think he knows about tonight's operation? Wally asked after the Dragon King left the building.
Alarm raced through Caden for a moment, considering how foolish Valerius already thought him, and how the Dragon King believed he sought out trouble. Discovering their plan to infiltrate humans first would have just confirmed that and more. No. He would have said something. Caden bit his lower lip.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I'm betting he would have grabbed you by the scruff of your neck and hauled you to the castle.
Wally made a gesture of grabbing the back of his own neck.
Like he did last night, right?
Caden looked at him suspiciously. Was Wally making fun of him? Was he trying to suggest that the Dragon King was overly protective of him? Wally, he doesn't even want me in his territory, so I highly doubt he would Shanghai me again. Caden crossed his arms over his chest and scowled.
Oh, come on, kid. If Valerius didn't want you here, you wouldn't be here. You'd be a series of charcoal briquettes at the bottom of the drop.
Wally chuckled and slapped his arm.
He's just grumpy. Think on it this way. Remember when Whiskers was getting up there in years?
Whiskers was a marmalade cat that Wally had adored for years. She just died the year before.
And I brought in Stumps.
Stumps was a kitten who got his name from the fact that his tail had been amputated after it had been run over.
Well, Whiskers acted like Stumps needed to get the hell out of the house. She was not sharing the bed, or the sofa, or the sill, let alone my love. She even knocked over Stumps' food and water bowls, trying to show she was boss.
Yeah, I remember. You were pulling your hair out. Caden paused. Wally's bald pate sort of made that mostly impossible.
I was, Wally agreed without seeing the irony. Anyways, Whiskers would hiss and spit and growl whenever Stumps even entered the room, let alone tried to get close to her. I thought it would never get better. They would hate each other forever, and instead of giving her a friend, I'd brought an enemy into our house.
This story has a point, right? Caden teased. But then it seemed even the black dragon balloon hat glared at him. Go on, I'm all ears, Wally.
I'm imparting wisdom here,
Wally said with a wag of one of his little fingers. I know. Go on, seriously, I want to hear. And he did, though he was pretty sure he knew how the story turned out. Plus, it would have him thinking of Valerius as Whiskers. That was priceless.
Anyways, so here I am thinking I made the biggest mistake of my life. But then it happens.
Wally paused for effect. What happens?
Stumps comes into the room, and Whiskers doesn't hiss or spit or growl. She doesn't look happy. She firmly ignores him, but it's an improvement.
Wally's fingers shot up into the air for emphasis.
And then, day by day, things get better. Stumps and Whiskers sit on the same couch together. Now they were on opposite ends, but still.
Improvement? Caden guessed.
Exactly. Then they're on adjoining cushions. And there's no more knocking over Stump's food and water dishes. And then it happens, Wally crowed.
Another improvement, Caden guessed.
Yes! I found them curled around each other, yin and yang on the bed, sleeping, not just beside each other, but wrapped around each other.
Wally sounded triumphant, and Caden knew why.
And they were best friends forever after that. They never slept apart. They got on my lap at the same time for pets. They cleaned one another. And I am certain that Whiskers lived far longer because of Stumps than she would have done otherwise.
And then you brought in Tiger for Stumps after Whiskers passed into the great beyond, Caden remembered.
He was mourning Whiskers hard. We both were. But Tiger got things all happy again.
Wally sighed with pleasure as he thought of his two cats at home, who were undoubtedly waiting for him in the bow window out front like they usually did. So, the moral of this story is that Valerius is Whiskers and I'm Stumps, Caden asked, breaking Wally's cat-induced reverie. Wally shook himself all over. The black dragon balloon animal squeaked.
Exactly. So you see, we've gotten past the hissing and spitting stage, I think, between you and Valerius. Valerius is pretty good with you in the same room now.
So soon we'll be sitting on the same couch, ignoring each other, and then... Caden was struggling not to burst out laughing as he imagined Valerius in all his armor and leather, seated at one side of a couch, staring glumly ahead, while Caden sat on the other end.
You'll be cuddling in no time.
Wally clapped his shoulder again. Are you talking to my sister? Caden let out a laugh. She's convinced, I think, that Valerius and I like one another. It's so stupid. But she's 13, so what can you expect? Wally just stared at him with a faint smile on his face that had Caden turning away from him. He hadn't told Wally about the mate thing. He should. He knew Wally would have loads of good ideas about how to handle it and strategize, and he'd do it in a way that would ensure that Caden got what he wanted. He'd seen Wally argue down enough of their suppliers that they were practically paying him to take their material off their hands. To know that Wally could help him was far better than the Raven attorneys his father had gotten him. He'd be able to help him with Marban, too, so he wasn't as helpless as a babe in the woods like Valerius thought. Caden might not have the experience himself, but others around him did. He was good. I dare you, Wally, to tell Valerius this story. Impart this bit of wisdom to him, Caden chuckled.
Oh, that would ruin the magic. But hear this, it will happen.
Wally wagged a finger.
Now come on, kid. Story time is over. We need to sell. I want my best salesman on the floor.
As they were going into the main showroom, a sudden thought struck Caden and he asked, Wally?
Yep.
You love cats.
More than anything, except maybe selling, but close second.
Caden's eyes narrowed. But you're a rat shifter.
And? Oh, yeah, I guess I see your point.
Wally chuckled, but then said conspiratorially,
I have to admit that sometimes I find joy in the irony that I am the cat parent. It's quite amusing.
Caden just shook his head and grinned. The hours flew by as Caden worked the floor. The few times that he had made a move to sell outside, though, Wally had called him back in.
Just makes me remember a certain incident where I thought I lost you,
Wally had finally confessed after the third time. But nothing can happen to me now, Caden had pointed out, though he had still been touched deeply by Wally's concern.
Yeah, that made me so, but just stay inside today, Caden.
And Caden had done as his boss had asked, even though it was harder to sell as many plushies that way. He was pleasantly surprised, though, by how many tourists had come out. What was a little unnerving was how almost all of them were talking about the white dragon shifter.
Do you suppose he'll show up again?
One elderly woman asked her daughter. Why do you assume it's a he? I thought the white dragon was too graceful to be a male. Her daughter sniffed. Caden tried not to smirk. The white dragon spirit purred at the compliment of being called graceful. As far as he could tell, the spirit wasn't any gender. Mama, he was near here, the big white one. Will he come again? A little girl asked, tugging on a rather haggard-looking woman's arm. She turned an exhausted face to Caden's. Is there any news if the white dragon shifter is going to show up today? And maybe what time? I don't think the white dragon shifter is like a scheduled attraction or anything, Caden told her, even as the white dragon spirit offered the image of them performing tricks in the air above amazed people in the square. Oh, that's unfortunate. The woman crumpled a little, and he could tell that she had been worn down by her daughter's desire to see the white dragon. Mama! The girl's eyes went huge, filling with tears that threatened to spill. No white dragon? Caden felt strangled by guilt. The white dragon spirit cooed softly. But then Landry saved the day as she thrust a black dragon plushie at the girl. Feel how soft and cuddly this one is. Landry put a lot more enthusiasm in her voice than she normally did. The save was short-lived. The little cherub suddenly turned into a little monster and threw the plushie at Landry's head, nearly beaning her as she shrieked, I don't want the black one, I want the white one! Both Caden and the white dragon spirit quickly backed away. The woman grabbed her Hellion child's hand and dragged her from the shop as the little girl loudly proclaimed she wanted the white one, the white one. They're all like this, Landry hissed into Caden's ear. Obsessed! It's a good thing they don't know it's you, because you could start your own cult with the amount of adoring cultists you've got here. I don't want to start a cult, he whispered harshly under his breath. Well, you might not have a choice, she answered back. Then with a huff, she pointed out the windows. Oh, wait, I forgot. The shifters already have a cult. He followed her finger and saw the members of the faith were outside in their flowing white robes. And there was a familiar figure with them. Caden stiffened. Oh, God, no, he muttered. Is that your mom? Yeah, that's my mom, outside. Worshipping the white dragon shifter? Landry completed and patted his shoulder in solidarity. What are they doing? Dancing and chanting, he groaned. There were over 24 of the white-robed figures that were assembled in the center of the square. They formed a large circle, all holding hands as they began to chant and step forwards and back in unison. Tilly suddenly joined him and Landry. She held the feather duster like a rifle. What is Mom doing? Tilly put into her voice all the 13-year-old embarrassment about one's parent acting like a fool in front of people that she could. Caden rather agreed with her. He wanted to cover his eyes, especially when one of their customers opened the door and they could hear what the faith members were saying, which was, "Oh, great white dragon, you who bring peace and justice to the earth, come join us. We call to thee, answer our call as we kneel before you." The door closed and Caden laid his head in a pile of werewolf sweatshirts, groaning. Why is Mom doing this? Tilly hissed. She knows. Well, you know. Why would she be worshipping the white dragon? She believes in what she's chanting, I think, Caden groaned again. Tilly's brow furrowed. But that's crazy. I mean, she glanced at him quickly before amending. Not that I don't think that the white dragon is awesome, but it's still, you know, Caden, it's you. I couldn't agree with you more, Caden said. I tried talking to her about it last night, but I can't reason with her. What did her parents say in response to the text you sent about us being here? Dad is so going to kick your ass. He's not impressed with your other half, Tilly smirked. But Mom replied that you had your reasons and he shouldn't interfere. Oh, great. I'm glad they don't have my new number yet. He pulled out the cell phone. Let me send my number to the two of you. Cool phone. Where did you get that? Tilly asked. Valerius, he answered negligently. And then his eyebrows rose as he realized that all of his contacts were in his new phone. It was a new number, but even without the SIM card, they had nearly replicated everything. You totally know that's bugged, right? Landry was frowning at the phone. He stared at it. It likely was. He could totally see Valerius giving orders to Simi or Shione to get a phone that they could track and listen into his calls, see his emails and texts. He weighed it in his hands. You're probably right. I'll get another phone, a burner, so we can discuss anything we don't want Big Black to know. Big Black? Ha Tilly giggled. Yeah, well, it does describe him, doesn't it? He grinned at her. Oh, I think your mom is coming this way, guys, Landry said before she faded back to the cash register. Tilly and Caden exchanged worried glances. He stuffed the phone quickly into his pocket, not wanting her to know just yet that he could be reached. He wasn't sure exactly why he did that, but it had a lot to do with the fact that both his mother and father wanted to control what was going on in some way, and he wanted to think things out on his own. The bell over the top of the door jingled as she stepped through. She wore the white robes of the faith. There was sweat dotting her forehead. She was blotting it with a handkerchief that she pulled out of an inside pocket. I hope you are enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. I've been talking a lot about the membership site I have, but I also do publish individual books under the pen name Ex Aratare, which have the same type of adventurous plot, magic around every corner, and happily ever afters as Dragon's Reign. While I love shifters, my biggest love is actually vampires. I have a book series out called The Vampires Club. It's about a cursed vampire and the young man whose blood may be able to cure him. It's filled with mystery, scheming, dark deeds, and, of course, sensual scenes. If you want to check it out, a link to the Vampires Club series is in the description down below. "Oh my goodness, is it hot out there?" she said, smiling at them both. Both his and Tilly's smiles were only half as real. "It's so beautifully cool in here, though." She touched Tilly's cheek. "You making a little extra cash to rule the world?" "To feed my brother, actually," Tilly smiled. "Oh, I could totally pay you back for breakfast now, Till." He reached into the wallet that Valerius got him, then stopped himself. "I mean, I will be able to pay you back as soon as I get my bank card." The wallet had a new license, bank card, and he'd even seen some cash in there. He had almost given the cash back to Valerius when he noticed it, but then he thought about how Valerius had arrested his friends. He had determined at that moment to use it for pizza or something for the group. "You bought Caden breakfast?" His mother's brow furrowed as she petted her daughter's head. Yeah, we got fast food on the way here," Caden said. "Caden, you shouldn't be doing that now." Her alarmed expression had him stiffening. "Mom," her voice lowered, "you're not the only one in that body, and it needs to last a long time." Tilly frowned deeply. "Mom, it's still Caden. He's still the same as he was before. Why are you acting weird like it's not his body anymore, like he's someone else?" Caden could have almost kissed his sister if they hadn't been talking about his super secret identity in the middle of the store, though no one seemed to notice. "Tilly, we should discuss this elsewhere, but your brother is not the same. He has greater power and responsibilities." "He's still Caden!" Tilly actually stomped her foot. Now people were looking. His sister was glaring at their mother. Their mother had her tested patience face on. That was like a red flag to a bull to his sister. Caden had to shut down his sister's awesome yet teenage defense of him. "It's okay, Till. I think some figurines need dusting over there." He pointed to the opposite side of the store. The feather duster quivered in his sister's hand, rather like the tail of some wild animal. Then with a flounce, she said, "Fine," and stormed off. He and their mother watched her disappear between two racks of hoodies before turning back to one another. She reached out and tentatively put her hands on his shoulders, smoothing them down his arms. "How are you doing?" she asked, tilting her head to the side as she studied his face. "I'm fine. Good, actually. It's all good," he lied. "Really? Do you want to maybe go talk to someone?" she asked. He frowned. "Like who?" "Well," she turned to look outside at the leader of her congregation of the faith. "Sister Sarah has a lot of wisdom." "No," he cut her off. "But I really have wise people to talk to already, like Wally, like Shioni, like Valerius," he said quietly. "Please tell me that you haven't told Sister Sarah, or whatever her name is, who I am, have you?" His mother took half a step back, shocked at his vehemence. "No, I just thought—" "Good. You need to keep it that way, Mom. No one in the faith is going to know anything about me," he told her, the anger flaring bright and hot. Over her shoulder, he saw Rose making her way through the crowd of white-robed figures. She was in her bee outfit. It was like a defiant statement in yellow and black stripes of who and what she was. He saw those white-robed figures couldn't twitch out of her way fast enough, as if afraid of touching her, as if she could contaminate them. He shook his head in disgust. His mother turned to see what he was looking at. He felt her stiffen beside him as she, too, recognized a swarm shifter. "I thought you worshipped shifters, Mom," he said to her. "We worship the spirits, the kind spirits," she answered with confusion. She hadn't recognized Rose as his friend from last night. She just saw a swarm shifter and thought this girl must contain a bad spirit. He knew his mom was a good person, but this was not a side he liked of her. If he were totally honest with himself, he'd had the same reaction to Rose when he'd first met her. It was a reaction that simply shouldn't be. Valerius is right, Caden thought. I do think I can change things. As soon as Rose opened the door, defiantly strutting inside, daring people to run from her, Caden had broken away from his mother. "Rose! I'm so glad you're here," he called as he wrapped her in a hug. The whole store seemed to go quiet for a moment as he embraced the swarm shifter. Rose herself was so shocked again by this hug that she stood still and awkward in his arms before patting his back. He pulled away to see her face with its elaborate makeup. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. I wasn't sure either," she admitted. Her eyes searched his face, looking for dismay that she'd made such a grand entrance. "But, here I am." "Here you are," he grinned at her, "and just in time, as I sort of need saving. Before I say anything more, I'll regret to my mom." She frowned and dropped her voice. "Is she giving you trouble? Is she rejecting you?" Rose was a mixture at that moment of fierce fight and flight. She actually was angry on his behalf and ready to wade in. He could see it in her narrowed eyes, but he could also see old pain there too, that she would have liked to avoid. No, nothing like that. She's a member of the faith and, you know, shifters are awesome," he said and gestured towards his white-robed mother who was standing back politely smiling. "Won't you introduce me to your friend, Caden?" his mother asked. He saw Tilly's feather duster between the row of sweatshirts. His sister was coming back to check out this newcomer too. The rest of the shop was still quiet, and people were just pretending to browse while they watched them out of the corner of their eyes. "Yeah, Mom, this is Rose. Rose, this is my mom," he said as he gestured between them. "Rose helped me out the other day after, things. She really helped. Couldn't have made it without her," Caden said in introduction. His mother didn't extend Rose a hand, but instead embraced the incredibly startled swarm shifter. He heard his mother murmur, "Thank you so much for helping my son, Rose." Caden's anger against his mother suddenly completely melted away. He had judged her too harshly. He should have known better. His mother was a good person. Of course she was. Why had he assumed differently? Her weirdness was because this whole thing was weird. How could he blame her? She had pulled back, but was still holding onto Rose's shoulders, a wide smile on her face. Rose was looking at his mother's robes. His mother colored. "Oh, this is awkward. Although really it shouldn't be," his mother said with an uncertain laugh. "I mean, you're a shifter and I'm a member of the faith. But really, we don't get to talk to a lot of you, even though we, well, you know, worship the spirits." Rose's face was curiously blank for a moment, but then, as if she realized that his mother was including her in the type of spirits they worshipped, she smiled softly. "Oh, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm not worth worshiping or anything, but the spirits are, they're cool." "I don't know about that. You saved Caden, Rose," she said with another smile. "I just took him to an exit, and it might have cost him something. I'm from the below, so he looked a little out of place, and, well, I guess I'm glad I could help," Rose said and ducked her head. "I want to hear all about it, Rose. Caden, you must bring Rose to dinner sometime." "What about tonight?" his mother asked. Caden thought of the humans' first meeting. "Can't tonight. Rose and I have something going on." "We do?" "Oh, yeah, I guess we do," Rose said, and he saw that she thought he just didn't want her to come to dinner. "So what about tomorrow, Rose?" he asked. "Are you free tomorrow?" She blinked. Yeah. I don't have anything going on unless I get a job here and I need to work." "I'm sure you'll get the job, Rose." His mother then called over to Wally, who was making his way towards them as well. "Wally, don't schedule Rose or Caden for work tomorrow during dinner time. We have plans." Wally waved an arm through the air. "Will do." Rose's mouth had fallen open, and she shifted from foot to foot, clearly stunned. His mother turned back to her. "Well, then it's settled. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., Caden will give you the address. Now I better get out there. Looks like the second dance of the White Dragon is starting." She touched Caden's cheek. "I know you're still you. I do know that, Caden." He suddenly hugged his mother. "I need you to be still you." She tightened her hold on him. "You're right. I'm sorry, Caden. I don't know. I'll figure this out." "We'll figure it out," he said. She kissed his cheek before drawing towards the door. "Nice to meet you, Rose. I'll see you tomorrow for dinner." "Yeah, sounds great," Rose said with an uncertain wave. The hard-edged swarm shifter was nowhere in sight at that moment. As the door closed, Rose looked at him, but there was no chance to say anything before Tilly, preceded by the feather duster, charged over and thrust out her hand to shake Rose's. Rose took it uncertainly and shook it limply. Hi, she said. I'm Tilly, Caden's sister. You told her about me, didn't you, Caden? I didn't have a chance to. You're a shifter, Tilly asked Rose. Rose's eyes dropped and she immediately shifted uncomfortably, but she said with a touch of defiance, yeah, I'm a swarm shifter. Tilly's eyes got huge. Caden dreaded for a moment what she might say, but then Tilly blurted out so loudly that everyone in the store and probably the square could too. Wow, that's so cool! And there was absolutely no lie in her voice. She meant it. Rose just stared, mouth dropping open again. Caden heard another kid in the store ask her mom if she could go talk to the swarm shifter too. Her mother shushed her, but quite a few people, though, drifted closer. It's really cool, Till. Rose turns into bees. She can actually pollinate flowers, Caden said helpfully, but that got him a stern look from Rose, as if he'd revealed something intimate or embarrassing. He thought it was cool. So did Tilly. She clapped her hands together. Oh man, I have so many questions. I don't know if it's rude to ask, though. Is it rude to ask? She looked pleadingly at Rose, hoping the swarm shifter would tell her it was okay to ask as many questions as she wanted. Rose sort of did that. Depends on the question, Rose answered. But go ahead. If I don't want to answer, I won't. Okay. Another clap of the hands. When you turn into bees, what does it feel like? I mean, you're like hundreds of bees. Do you feel like you're split into 100 pieces? Rose let out a startled laugh but shook her head. No, I'm still me. But okay, imagine you reach for something with your hand. That still feels like you, right? That's a part of you. Every bee is a part of me, like a hand or an eye or whatever. Oh, wow. Okay. What about when someone swats one of the bees? Do you feel it? Does it hurt? Are you wounded when you turn back into your human form? Tilly asked, and these were really good questions. Seeing people clustering around them, Rose pinked a little, but then she made her voice more confident. No one swats me. But let's pretend they foolishly did. I would sense it, but it wouldn't hurt, because my consciousness just retreats. If you lose a skin cell, you don't feel the pain of that, do you? And my energy just forms another bee. So cool, Tilly murmured. What's it like to fly? And how high have you flown? And hold on to your questions for your own time, Tilly, Wally said as he came over, the balloon black dragon hat leading the way. I've got some interviewing to do before the three of you go to lunch. Okay. I'm going to talk to her alone, Caden. You need to keep an eye on things out here. We'll be back, Wally said. He was smiling, but Caden knew that Wally was going to check Rose out, probably in a way that Valerius would approve of. Rose looked alarmed for a moment, but then her expression became bland. She was certain that he only saw the alarm because she'd been so disarmed by his mother and Tilly. She hadn't expected welcome and friendship. Suspicion of her was likely more her element. You okay, Rose? Caden asked. Of course, she told him, her facade firmly in place. Why wouldn't I be? He could think of so many reasons for her not to be. Well, cool. See you in a bit then, he told her. Wally and Rose headed into the back. His sister touched his arm. He looked down at her. Don't worry, she said. Rose will be fine. Wally just is making sure that Valerius isn't right about her. Yeah, I know he is, Caden agreed. If she's who you think she is, Wally will know, Tilly said. And if she's not, then Wally will know that too. His sister went back to her dusting, but Caden couldn't quite distract himself from the warehouse door. I'm right about her, Caden thought. I know I am. But still, he worried. I hope you enjoyed this week's chapter. If you want to read ahead in Dragon's Reign or read the many other stories hosted there, you can purchase a membership to get access to RaytheReign.com, or you can continue to listen along here for free. If you'd like to learn more about RaytheReign.com and me, there's a link in the description down below.